my worst night was a bottle. Well, when my friend Sam and I drank collectively a bottle and a half of tequila, that was
It's always
possibly the worst
tequila,
night
isn't it? Yeah.
It's tequila, man. Tequila.
Well, to
Looking
start
for
everything
it.
off with a tequila story, that's the perfect way to begin a live show.
Right.
So welcome, everyone.
Oh,
We are talking about the murder of Mr. Wickham. We are also discussing Amber and her best friend Sam and their tequila adventures. So that's
She's
also
like,
a
oh,
topic
we're
of
live now.
discussion
Awesome.
today.
Great.
Yeah, I just clicked the button when mid story. So
it's
I'm just a
fine.
friend like that.
Oh, that's
Listen, I
fantastic.
appreciate you nonetheless. And I mean, as a result, our duo YouTube channel resulted. We have a great video that resulted from that night, which is
Excellent.
The Glass Lake. We talked about the
Glass
Glass
Lake.
Lake. And
All right, I'll update the show notes after this and link down below.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so we're talking about The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray. This is a new release, and just a forewarning to everyone, we will be discussing all of the spoilers. So if you are planning to read this one, pause this for now, put it on watch later, read the book, and then come back. All right, so actually, I've got several other YouTubers on here. So go around and introduce yourselves. Alicia, you're going to be a YouTuber here soon, so you start.
Eventually. I'm working on it. It's coming. It's coming. Do you want me to go first? Or?
Yes, go first. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm Alicia. You can usually find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I dip in and dip out when it comes to Twitter. So you can mainly find me on Instagram, and that's where I'll be putting all my information once the YouTube channel is.
All right. Thank you very much. Amber, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Amber. I have two channels. I have my solo channel, which is Amber Unabridged, where I talk about books and crafting. And then I also am one half of a duo channel called The Drunken Library with my friend Sam, where we get drunk and talk about books.
And a great time it is. All right, Nicole, go ahead.
My name is Nicole. My channel name is Who Picked This Book. You can find me on all types of social media with that form, Who Picked This Book, one way or another. I'm over there having a great time reading weird things revolving around romance.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for coming on and being my co-host. And I have my good friend Ryan here as well, who begrudgingly agreed to read this book. So thank you, Ryan. We appreciate that.
I'm sorry. It was my fault. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's one of those things where I had to expand my reading material and actually read something that I'm not used to reading. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Oh, okay.
And I don't really have an internet presence. I just silently judge books by myself. Until Aaron started getting me to come on here and do these shows with him, which I have enjoyed.
Good. Hey, Heather, thanks for stopping by. And yes, I was hoping that Heather could join us, but she is better than most of us and makes good use of her library and is sticks to that. And she couldn't get her hands on a copy, but that's all right. She will probably be discussing this on her channel sometime later. All right. So what did everyone think?
Oh
no.
We lost someone.
Initial thoughts, anyone? Nicole, go ahead.
I was like, I want to hear what everybody else has to say.
I didn't want to say anything.
All right, I'll start then.
Okay, go ahead.
Think all of the characters were done justice. I think, for the most part, at least my favorite characters, and I do think maybe there was a tiny bit of romantic elements in there with, Juliet and Jonathan, but I feel like that missing element of the Austen romance made it a little rough at some points in this book. So it's great to have the Austen cast of characters, but having it be more of like an Agatha Christie mystery was a bit jarring at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are my initial thoughts.
I have a collection of like random initial thoughts, I guess.
Go ahead.
First was I agree. There could have been a little bit more zest in the romance department. I also felt like Wickham was actually conveyed very differently than he was in Pride and Prejudice, in that in Pride and Prejudice, he tries to present as a likable fellow, and in this book, he's just like full villain, full
Mhm.
villain. And I was like,
Mhm.
that seems a little, it was a little surprising. And then, yeah, other than that, I also just kind of really liked it. It was a lot of fun to read. So those are kind of my initial thoughts. The like primary one was the Wickham thing. I was like,
Yeah.
really?
Piggybacking off of that, I felt like the only person that was kind of displayed true to character was Wickham. I didn't really like how Darcy or Elizabeth were portrayed in this. That was my biggest pet peeve a little bit. I feel like yeah, Wickham was different. Like he was wholly villain. Like I totally agree with you with that, 100%, Amber. But I think it's just because in Pride and Prejudice, he was still trying to convince people or pretend that he was good. At this point in time, everybody knows he's a piece of crap, you know? Like, everybody knows and has some sort of beef with him. So, like, why hide? Like, you know, so I feel like his true colors are just out there for the world to see now. And honestly, the two things that I really enjoyed about this book was that Wickham died and then Jonathan and Juliet.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, perfect. Yeah, Aaron, I agree with you 100%. I needed there to be more of the Austen romance. I was hoping it was going to be there with Jonathan and Juliet, but it just wasn't.
Mhm.
And the fact that this just felt like a glorified cozy mystery, I was kind of like, I wasn't like, yeah, all the characters. And I thought that was strange too. I was like, the death of Mr. Wickham, I was like, oh, okay, it's, you know, like it's Darcy and Elizabeth and potentially their kids. I was like, oh no, everybody's here. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And they're like hopping back and forth between all of their points of view with no really rhyme or reason. It was kind of jarring. So, I mean, maybe it hit me more just because I listened to the audiobook and I was just like, oh, we're talking about these people now. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was definitely one that you had to listen to and read. I would say that because if you were just listening to the audiobook, it kind of just, you didn't know whose head you were in until someone else said the person's name.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely, like I said, I've never read any Jane Austen or anything like that. So like I had no preconceptions coming into this book. And it was like I accepted that fact. Yeah, I know. It's a tragedy. I know.
I was like, man, I never read Mansfield Park. I'm so behind.
It's one of those things where I am. I'm like,
all of them, no.
So my opinion is probably much different than all of yours, but yeah, I definitely felt like Wickham was definitely the bad guy. But I feel like even in the setting, it was like his moment to gloat. Like he had finally bested everyone. And he was there to gloat and lord it over them just to rub it in their faces like, I won. You know? It was, but it was definitely with the storytelling and stuff. I gave up even trying to figure out who was who and just, okay, these two here, these two here. Like I followed along close enough. One of those ones where I was just like, okay, I don't even care.
Did you visually read it or did you listen to the audiobook?
I listened to the audiobook.
Okay. I also listened to the audiobook. I don't know who else did.
I did too. I did just audio.
We all did.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I think it's just because I started today, so I'm like, I gotta listen to this.
You messaged me this morning, and it was like, I gotta start it. I'm like, you didn't start it yet.
I'm like, no, I did
on Saturday.
This is how I am as a human being. I procrastinate.
I know. I should be used to it by now.
Well, it's so we can have all the information fresh at hand in our mind. That's
exactly.
why we do it.
Yeah, I don't promise that either, but.
Heather sends her sympathies, right?
You know what? The book wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. The only thing that I really feel like that happened for me was that, like, because I didn't have an attachment to the characters, like, I wasn't as invested. And it was one of those things where, like, I saw that coming with the whole twist at the end. It was just like, oh, of course. It was like, I don't know. It's just one of those things like, no, they're not just going to be like, oh, yeah, it was one of us. like
Right.
and just
right.
oh, like
You could tell that she was treading very carefully to not step on anyone's favorite character. Right.
Oh yeah.
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 Yep.
Honestly, if Mr. Darcy did it, I'd be like, good job. I'm like, yeah.
That would be the one that had the most to like gain from him dying.
I
That's
would
why
have
I
been
was
like,
like, okay, he's probably going to be the one that. I mean, just coming from the Pride and Prejudice background, he would.
I would have been
Yeah, he's
A-okay.
number one suspect.
I would have been A-okay with Fitzwilliam Darcy killing Wickham. I was like, you know what? It's been a long time coming. I'm surprised you held out this long. Because not only like, yeah, they knew each other when they were younger, so they have that kind of history, but then like they married into each other's like they married like sisters. So like
family,
they're gotta. God, I would hate Thanksgiving. I would hate Thanksgiving
Right?
on Christmas. Like, an asshole. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss, but it's just like I would hate it.
Oh, don't worry about cussing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I'm always so worried. I'm like, sorry, can I curse on here?
I know. And I always mean to ask because on my channel, I'm like a freaking drunken sailor over there. So it's like, on other people's channel, I'm like, I'm sorry, I cussed.
I feel that.
Yes.
Yes. Honestly, I would have been fine with it.
Did anyone? I kind of suspected at some point it was going to be out of left field. Like we were going to have like Mr. Collins was going to show up like second to last chapter, you know, and be like, "Oh yeah, of course I killed," you know. It's like,
Actually,
I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you darn kids. You know?
I really the whole time I was like, man, these are all very loved characters. I was like, there's no way any of them did it. Like, we're not about to hang any of these characters because she'll get all kinds of angry readers coming at her out of left field. Like, no. But so I the whole time I was expecting it to be like a new side character, like what's her face? The young Miss man, the son, the daughter,
Grace Churchill.
Yes, Grace Churchill.
Grace Churchill.
I was like, she's come in for some reason. It's her. She was I don't know why. That's what I
you're channeling your Emma Woodhouse there.
Oh, Emma.
I was kind of hoping it was Emma because I can't stand her as a character. She gets on my nerves. Like, I was hoping it was her. She's so crazy.
Oh.
See, that's funny you mentioned that, Amber, because one of the notes I took was like someone like it was Juliet. Yeah, she was just in her head, just like complaining about Grace Churchill, and I'm like, of course, that's Jane Fairfax's daughter, because Emma spent the whole book complaining about Jane Fairfax. Yeah, so it just keeps going.
Oh yeah, no. I was like, for some reason, I started suspecting her when the trowel was planted in Juliet's room. And I was like, it's going to be like a love rival or something. Like, I was convinced. I was absolutely convinced. Obviously, I was wrong. I don't read a lot of mysteries, but, you know, that's what I thought was going to happen.
I honestly didn't even try to guess, like...
I just went with it.
Yeah, I didn't even try to guess who the killer was, and honestly, I don't think because I like cared all that much. I'm just like, yeah, he's dead. Okay, great. But you know, I didn't really. Usually, I mean, I wouldn't say usually. I try to, you know, guess the whodunit. It's usually the red herring that usually gets me. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's this person. And like, no, it's a red herring. Dang it.
What did everyone feel about the subplots? With all the couples and everything, do you feel it added or took away?
I'm honestly, I felt like some of them are slightly unnecessary. I do want to point, like, I just want to do like trigger warnings too, like for like the homophobia and the gypsy slur that was used.
Oh,
so
yeah.
just, like blanket trigger and content warnings for that. But yeah, honestly, it's like, I was really only interested in like finding out who the killer was, but then also Juliet and Jonathan. That's really all I was interested in.
Yeah.
I found, so like for me, all like kind of the side plots sort of almost took me out of this novel. When like Elizabeth and Darcy would have, when it would reference Pride and Prejudice, I was like, oh, that's a reference to Pride and Prejudice. Like that's like a nod. And it took me out of this novel and kind of put me back as a reader of that novel, as opposed to staying in this story and appreciating all the characters as is. And for everything that they referenced that I did know, it was just kind of pulled me out. And also, just sort of side note, in regards to like Nicole, in regards to like the trigger warnings, when I was listening to the audiobook, and it starts off with like the fact that they use yeah, the author's note, and she's like, they would have referred to these individuals as gypsies because that's the term they would have used then. But I was like, okay, but you still chose to put it in the book. Like you still chose to do it
didn't
as
seem necessary to be
a group of people they would have naturally suspected, which like, yes, but I was like, you already fudged up the timeline and created your entire universe here. Why couldn't you have just said it was people traveling through town or something? Like, yeah.
Or just literally call them Romani people. Like you don't have to.
You're already creating your own universe. You can you can change, the way they spoke to each other didn't even seem all that authentic. So you can really just kind of do whatever you want.
Right. Absolutely.
That's kind of my thoughts on that too.
All right. Well, let's go around and do this this question. This was for viewers, but Alicia, go ahead and start with question 1 here. How many?
I've read them all.
All of them? Awesome.
Yeah.
Which
I started reading them when I was 8.
Oh, nice.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Pride and Prejudice on tape when I was 8.
Oh, okay.
That's amazing.
Shows how old I am. But my favorite one is, it used to be Mansfield Park, but now it's my Persuasion.
What made it Mansfield Park? What was it about Fanny Price that?
It's not even her. It's how much drama and like soap opera-ness was going on with the rest of them.
Okay, yeah.
Like Henry and all the other ones. Like she wrote someone sleeping with someone that wasn't their husband. Like that didn't happen back then, like in books, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was dramatic and fun.
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Dramatic for no reason.
I've never been able to unsee it when someone pointed out that Fanny essentially did nothing but observe in her own book. Like that she just observed the entire time and everything else happened around her.
And I know it was normal for the time period, but the cousin thing never worked out okay with me. I was like, anybody else,
literally anybody else,
not someone you grew up with, like in the same house. It's creepy.
Right? Yeah.
The fact that they were children together. No.
And she doesn't have like good relationships with men anyway, because her parents gave her up and all that other crap. And then she latches onto the one guy who's nice to her, who's
honestly, she's
her
like
first cousin.
Like, this is the best that I could do.
Ever hoped for.
This is the best. Honestly, I don't really feel like starting over. Like it just takes too much time.
All right, Amber, how many Austen novels have you read, and which one's your favorite?
I have read 5 of the 6 novels. I have not read Mansfield Park. Wow, I just inhaled things. So I haven't read Mansfield Park. I have to say Pride and Prejudice is my favorite. I know that's super cliche, but it's the one I've read the most. It was the first one I read, and I've read it the most times, so that one's my favorite. I think I've read the other ones only once each.
Oh, okay.
So, but I've seen adaptations of them quite a lot. I've watched 2 different Sense and Sensibility adaptations. honestly, that was probably the novel that I least enjoyed reading.
Same.
It was hard to get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a bad novel. It just was somehow it wasn't structured as enticingly as the others. But I felt like the adaptations really told the story in a very intriguing way, and so I appreciated those.
Yeah.
Also, I haven't read Emma since I was 18, and I got the book as a birthday gift from my brother. But have any of you seen the newest Emma movie that came out in like 2020?
No, I haven't.
haven't.
I hear a lot of people take issue with it.
Why? It's amazing.
I want to watch it because I love her. I love her.
Yeah.
I love her as an actor.
I heard that they change a lot of things that you wouldn't expect them to change, but they change. I don't know what the things are.
I haven't read the book since I was 18, so I don't have the direct context to be upset about, because I generally would be. But the movie, it is done very well. Like I know the director, she'd worked in like music videos primarily for several years beforehand. So like her attention to detail is amazing. And it's the movie is kind of not necessarily true to the time period, but it's a very interesting interpretation, and I really liked it.
Okay.
So yeah.
I think Emma's the one that's been adapted the most. Like it's the most adaptable story yet.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't like the source material compared to her other works.
Okay.
All right, Nicole.
I've read all of them except for Sense and Sensibility. I've also read the short epistolary novel Lady Susan.
Okay.
That was, and only just because the movie had come out with what's her name? Oh my gosh.
Kate Beckinsale?
Yes, thank you. So I read that, and my favorite is Pride and Prejudice, with my second favorite being Persuasion. Oh, Persuasion so much. It's the letter. It's the letter. I was like, oh my god, I love it.
I'm getting that letter printed and putting it on my wall.
Oh, nice.
It's just so gloomy. And it's just I like Pride and Prejudice a little bit more, just because I felt like the romance for Pride and Prejudice was more developed than it was Persuasion. Like Persuasion, you don't like, you get like some flashback and stuff, but you don't really like, he comes back and like the whirlwind, happens and stuff. So I was like, I would have liked it a little bit more developed, but yeah, so that Pride and Prejudice. And I've read that book the most as well.
Yeah, I've read the main novels. I haven't read Sandition or any of the side stuff or the incomplete works, but yeah, probably same, Nicole. Pride and Prejudice with Persuasion close behind.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, I was a little upset with the portrayal of Wentworth, Captain Wentworth, for a while. Like he seemed like just a little too upset throughout a lot of the book.
Throughout the book.
Like, come on, man, chill out. Like this isn't you. This.
I don't know. I was like, I was really upset with Elizabeth and Darcy. Like, I don't know why. I was just like, y'all have been married for so long, and you don't know that he's sad that his adoptive daughter died. Like, you don't know. Like, come on. Like, you know him. You know he doesn't really wear his emotions on his sleeve, and you're mad at him that he's not showing emotion. I was like, come on, Elizabeth, where you been? Very upsetting. I was just like, come on. And the fact that created such a wedge between them. I'm like,
for months, yeah.
For months. I'm like, that ain't no.
Right. Like, even if for some reason after 22 years you didn't know your husband, like, you can't tell me you've never talked to him, and you can't just talk to him now.
You can't just talk about how it's like, you're kind of not like feeling, like showing your emotion that our adoptive daughter died. That's sad. Like, do you need someone to talk to? I'm like, I'm here. Like, open communication. Like, you've been married for 22 years. Like, come on. But you should know your husband by now that he doesn't show emotion very well.
Yeah, and the basis of their whole romance was just miscommunication, right? Not portraying, not speaking your feelings, right?
Exactly.
We should be over this by now. Right?
So yeah, I was
in our 40s. We have to act like grown-ups.
about that, but other than
All right. What did everyone feel about Jonathan obviously being neurodivergent? I thought that added a fun and inclusive element to the story there.
Yeah.
So.
I liked it.
I honestly expected one of their kids to kind of have that similarity to Darcy, you know, just how it's kind of just, you know, like kind of a little bit, you know, uncomfortable in the whole, like with big parties and stuff, just how Darcy was, you know. And so it's like I liked that was like a callback, and it was, you know, their eldest, or he's the oldest, right, Jonathan?
Yes.
So
Yes.
So yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, fit very
Yeah,
well.
but I also felt like it was, at least for me, it was an interesting, like, because like I said, never having read Jane Austen or anything, like not really being familiar with Victorian, like, you know, society and stuff, where someone that's just like, I don't understand this. Like, that was kind of me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, why are we being this pretentious? Like, I understand to a degree. I understand that, you know, but like, even at that time where it was just like, oh, well, you know, it's acceptable to be for the, you know, servants to do that, but not for them to do it or something, where it's just like, come on.
He was like,
So
no
it
one
was
really
interesting.
explained it.
Yeah, well, but it wasn't, like I said, it was a good foil just to that be that person. It's like, I don't understand.
Right.
Kiddo cameo.
Say hi.
Lizzie.
Okay, all right.
Does anyone have any thoughts about Catherine and Mr. Tilney not being actually in this book?
Honestly, I didn't even notice
Interesting
because I felt like everybody was there, and I'm just like, okay, this is enough people.
Yeah.
This is enough people for me.
I didn't remember, like I said, I've read Pride and Prejudice, I knew Sense and Sensibility, and I knew Emma, but Persuasion and Northanger Abbey, I was like, I don't remember who the characters are. So I don't know who was from which book. At which point, I knew Wentworth was Persuasion.
Yeah.
And I was confused about pretty much everything else. I was like, they're all here having a good time. Maybe less than a good time.
Yeah.
Having a time.
Slightly less than a good time. But honestly, I felt like I'm glad she left some people out because it's so convoluted. It was so convoluted of all of those people. I'm just like, oh my God. And almost nearly every single one of them had some sort of point of view, like paragraph or chapter or something. I was like, oh my gosh.
I thought it was interesting, not in a good way, that they made them all related, which I thought was weird. Like, that was Wentworth was Bertram's cousin, who was the cousin to Colonel Brandon, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, I'm confused. I need like a tree. I don't understand where this all
tree.
Yeah. Yeah, we did need a map in there somewhere because there were a couple cousin relations. Because like Knightley was cousins with Wentworth, or
yes, that was the one I got. The rest of them, I have no idea.
Honestly, I was just like, some people are related, and they're all here, and that's all I need to know. I just chose to forget and ignore all the rest of how and what. I was like, they're all in the same house. We've got our story now, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I actually think it was probably on purpose that Catherine was left out, because that's like a murder mystery would just be like everything to her. She would love it. She would have been like, oh my God, we're in an old abbey and there's a murder and it's one of us here. Like she would have
had the best time.
Yeah. Brain orgasm right there. So I understand she would have stolen the show had she actually been there.
So she was the heroine from Northanger Abbey?
Northanger Abbey, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Her character, one of her character traits is she reads too many books, and so she keeps confusing life for a gothic novel
She's very dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't remember who the heroine from that story was, and so I kept waiting for something to indicate that, and I was like, well, I don't know, but that's fine, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, we just
was-
had Juliet, which was very loosely tied to Northanger Abbey, so it was the one
Yeah.
that was left out the most there.
I did
All right,
think
well-
it was interesting that they tied in what Jane Austen used to. Her pen name was a lady before she died, and then they put Jane Austen on there. So they tied Catherine in with a lady because she's the writer of the family. I thought that was interesting.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
I don't know if that just showed how much of an Austen nerd I actually am, that I know that.
That's all right. That's all right. That's why we're here.
Give us information.
If it makes you feel better, I knew that too, but I
Okay.
didn't remember who the character was.
My
So,
last paper in college was a 50-page paper about Jane Austen, so
nice.
as nerdy as you can get.
Nice.
I love it. It's my favorite story today.
All right, let's go around and do question 2. Who's your favorite Jane Austen heroine?
Ooh.
Go ahead, Alicia. We'll go in the same order.
Okay, I was gonna see if someone was gonna bite.
Oh, well, I can answer it immediately, but
I know your answer. Honestly, I like Catherine because she's just dramatic and fun.
Mhm.
I like it's ridiculous. Like she's ridiculous and she knows she's ridiculous.
oh yeah, that's true.
She knows she's
At least she's
ridiculous.
not clueless like Emma.
Yeah.
She's
Emma,
like, what? I'm the problem?
Right?
What?
Am I the trouble?
That's true.
She's one character I wouldn't mind rewriting. Like everybody says that rewrite.
Oh yeah, reread, burn, rewrite, whatever. It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, Ryan. Give us your favorite heroine.
Out of this book here. Honestly, I think I don't even know what her name was. It was the wife that went to sea with her husband.
Oh, Anne. Okay.
And she was probably my favorite because she seemed the most real. It was like, and also the one that was like, I don't mind the vacancy. I was with my husband. Like, where it was like, once again, it wasn't supposed to be. It was one of those things like, oh, that's kind of scandalous. You went to sea with him for so long. And she was like, I don't care. It was fun.
I was away from my family.
Yeah, that's right. She's so excited to go. Like, don't they have a daughter? It's like, I see. You can just hang out with the help.
Didn't she talk about like having family on the boat or something, or no, just saying that she could like make it as comfortable as a house being on the boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just like that. I like that. I don't know. On the whole, it was just, oh my god, they're so whiny. and it just it blows my mind. It really like reading this thing and like seeing it all. It's like the rules and limitations we place on ourselves in society is just ridiculous. Whether it was back then or even today, what are those things that we put on ourselves that oh, it's not polite to do that.
I love all of that stuff, from like Regency, just etiquette and everything like that. That's why I have this handbook here. This is the Jane Austen handbook that has also.
You have it too?
Oh, you have it also? Yeah, isn't it great? It's such a good reference.
A reference guide.
I love this.
Everything Austen that's humanly probably been published, I have.
Oh,
I have
perfect.
a problem. I know.
I wouldn't consider that a problem. All right, Amber, who's your favorite Austen heroine?
Man, I don't know. I would say, honestly, put on the spot without me planning, I'd probably have to say Eleanor from Sense and Sensibility, because she seems pretty down to earth, and she's like, I got to figure out what's what. So, like, even though Pride and Prejudice is my favorite overall story, it's because I love the drama. But Elizabeth, I'm like, come on now. It's like you're making presumptions and you're offending people left and right. Then you're getting offended left and right by their presumptions, which you're doing. And I'm like, I mean, it's entertaining to watch, but I wouldn't want to participate in that. I wouldn't want to like hang out with you in real life. So,
You're like, I just need my
have
popcorn.
Just want to be a
Listen,
fly on the wall.
One of those people, you're like, all right, you're my Facebook friend, but just so I can see the drama.
Exactly.
Listen, I have real friends where I'm like, hey, I love you, but I'm not getting involved in this. Ooh, gotta draw the line somewhere.
All right, Nicole, who's your favorite Austen heroine?
I really love Elizabeth Bennet.
Elizabeth is good. Elizabeth is great.
Yeah, I love her. Yeah, she honestly, like, she is like the start of all of her own problems. But I love it. I mean, yeah, she does presume a lot, and she gets mad at everybody because like of their own like prejudices and their assumptions and stuff. And I'm just like, you did it first, woman. But she does learn in the end. And then obviously, like, I'm just jealous because I would love Mr. Darcy for myself.
Yeah. I feel that right here. Yep.
I'd probably have to say Elizabeth too, just because I love how snarky she is, and I love that Darcy loves that about her too. So,
I know he doesn't want to change her. It's just because he's the perfect man. It's fine.
Communicate. Miscommunication central.
It's an issue.
Yes.
Still ongoing. 22 years later, still ongoing.
Yes. Yeah.
I do love how like their miscommunication causes all these problems, and they're like, "Hey, maybe we should talk to each other and be honest about things." Like that's why
I'm good. That works.
Yeah.
Like, talk about feelings? No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
How about Mary being the only Bennet sister to get a call back, or at least like we got the letter from her, and then we got a little bit about Lydia's death. What's everyone's feelings about Mary? I'm curious about that, just in general.
Honestly, I feel like she was the Bennet sister that was just easily overlooked. So it's like, yeah, I'm glad that she got like a little snippet in here. Honestly, I know Jane is living her best life. I know she is. So like, we don't really need to have her bragging here in the situation. And honestly, I feel like Lydia got what she deserved. Sorry.
Yeah.
And honestly, just like her portrayal,
Lydia was the worst.
Her portrayal in this book just kind of solidified that. Like, you didn't even care about your own kid. Like, you just sent her off to live with Darcy and Elizabeth. I was just like, okay, I'm done with you. I was done with you before. Now I'm even more done.
Yep.
And when I thought it was just like Lydia's death, like that's why Elizabeth was so sad. And I'm just like, no, be honest with yourself. You're relieved that you don't have to deal with that nonsense anymore. And I was like, oh, it's because like they had a daughter and like she had also passed. I'm like, that makes much more sense. Thank you.
Can I just comment about how Lydia would have been? I guess she wouldn't have been that old because she was a lot younger during Pride and Prejudice.
Right. She was 16, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 15 or 16. And so like 20 years would be like 35. So she would have been like, what, 33, 32 or something. I get, yeah, that's possible. I didn't actually do the math, but it still would have been iffy. I don't know.
It's that London air, you know.
Oh God.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
It just felt like
everybody got fevers and died. Honestly,
yeah.
Everybody got fevers.
Everything got infected. Yeah.
Literally everything got infected.
Yeah, and
Paper
I was
cut,
like,
you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, but she had a child late in life, so that we could have this to fuel the emotional distance between Elizabeth and Darcy. It just felt a little forced, just a little bit.
A little reachy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go around and do heroes real quick, and then unless anyone has anything else to add, I think we can probably call it there.
Darcy, sorry.
Really? Do you
All
want a
in
moment
favor
to
of
think
Darcy.
about it, Nicole?
No, not at all. All in favor of Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy.
What was that, Amber? Oh, no.
I was like, all in favor of Darcy?
Okay.
Say
No?
hi.
Okay.
Yes. Now
It's me and you, Amber. It's me and you.
I'm a Tilney. I'm Team Tilney over here. No.
Oh.
He's just so charming. You can't resist.
I mean, I guess.
It's a tie for me.
It's a tie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Alicia's
Right.
like, why choose?
Yeah.
Well, I'll preface this by saying that I think it's because of who played him in the movie is why I love him so much. Colonel Brandon. When it's Alan Rickman as Colonel Brandon, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All day, every day. But like as a conversationalist, tell me. All day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel bad for Jonathan when he's gonna, be hanging out at Colonel Brandon's place, hanging out with Brandon all day. It's like, so we're gonna go shooting or something? Just gonna sit, stare at the walls in silence, sip our brandy.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, did you have a favorite hero?
I didn't really. Really the only thing, and maybe I missed this, but like, so in the story when the husband copped to the murder, and like, did they? Maybe I was doing some housework or something, but I was listening to it, and I was like, wait, why did he cop to it without even knowing what was going on? Like with the whole murder weapon thing, where it was like, if he knew his wife had done it, why wouldn't they have had a conversation about like, oops, this is what the murder weapon is?
I think it's just like a communication issue with all of the characters. But yeah, it's like he knew that his wife did it, but not so much where they have talked about it and how he knew what the murder weapon was because he didn't.
Or at least,
that's how.
Yeah, or at least had a conversation like, hey, I know you did this. I'm going to take the fall for you, whether it was in the book or not. It was like, that seems like kind of a giant, once again, all those presumptions and assumptions. But it was just kind of like, I don't know. If it was me in that situation where I'm going to take the fall for my lover or my spouse or whatever, like, I'd probably have a conversation with them about it beforehand.
But then they try and stop you, and you can't give them the chance. You just have to fall on that sword.
You just have to do it. You just have to do it. But honestly, it was self-defense. I'm just like, honestly, and back then, at the time this novel was written, the man needed killing is an airtight legal defense. Airtight. Yes. Everybody hated him. So they were just like, oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for doing that for us.
Right.
You can go now. But the book would have been over much sooner if that had happened.
Well, that's where I kind of like got lost there. It was like he was, I don't know, like when I was listening to it, it was just like, wait, is he getting like rapey there at the end? Like he was just saying very inappropriate stuff to a lady, and like, especially in this time, it was horribly inappropriate. Like even I was just like, wait, he's being pretty forward there. And like, I wouldn't say that to someone now. Like that's horrible. Like why would you? Let alone it was just like, so it kind of gave you that like, yeah, he needs to die feeling. Like it was kind of the author being like, okay, he needs to die, and it's totally justified.
Yeah, it just solidified that, he's just a jerk and he needs to die. Yeah, absolutely.
The thing about Wickham is that he's an asshole, and apparently he doesn't give a shit.
Does not.
So like, he was
the only person he cares for is himself.
See, this is where like it kind of intrigues me, because now I want to go back and read Pride and Prejudice just to be like, was he really that big of an asshole? Like, yes, he's a dick. We get that he's a dick.
See,
but like, is he a horrible human being or just a pompous asshole?
He is a horrible human being.
He's awful.
He's
literally awful.
And
Yeah.
when
I
he
still
got
wanna
his
hear your
fortune,
takes
that
on
made
Pride
him
and
worse.
Prejudice.
100 times worse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You
he's
give him a
awful.
little bit of money, a little bit of power, and he's like, yes.
Yeah. But like the thing about like in Pride and Prejudice is you don't know that he's an asshole. You want to like him. It's you're supposed to like him at a certain point,
Mhm.
and he's trying to schmooze everybody into being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so charming. I'm
Very suave.
delightful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you happy. I'm gonna spend this time with you. I'm gonna flirt with you." But then he's doing that with every woman he meets ever in existence.
Mhm.
And I feel like
So,
that's why
And
I
then he's like,
immediately don't trust the charming characters or the overly charming characters because I'm just like, you probably
You're
have
hiding
someone
What's your
in your
angle?
and
basement.
it's fake.
You probably have someone locked in your place,
Yep.
your basement. But
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Did anyone have any other final thoughts? Alicia, you had some tabs. Did you want to share any with us?
I loved some of the how they made Frank Churchill the cop because everybody doesn't like Frank Churchill, and
Right.
that was the best. I'm like,
Go
just see
away.
it, like, and he goes nightly rolled his eyes. I was like, oh my god, I can't.
Oh, and they even brought Elton back too. I was like, oh my god, no! Like,
and the wife is awful. I can't.
yeah, like I hope it was you. I hope it was you, so we can get rid of you also. They can take you away in irons.
Like honestly,
I'm kind of glad they didn't do anything past the letter from Wickham because if they brought him back, I would have been real pissed.
Oh
I would
yeah.
have been so pissed.
Mhm.
honestly, Churchill is just like the worst detective like ever. He was like, oh yeah, this
Right.
mace with a lot of spikes like did him in. I'm like, really? Does he have like holes in his head? No, you're a moron. My God.
And he's like, "Oh, you kids, you've done a great job. Keep doing it. Keep
Keep
going."
doing
They're
it.
20 years old and they're
My
doing better
God.
than you are.
God, for real. I'm like, you're an idiot.
Oh man, that was great.
Oh
Great.
my gosh. You know, that's
All
what
right.
police work was back then. They just kind of like, it sounds like a good idea. It works.
Like,
Kill
this
that person
blunt
over there.
object is here. Yes, this must be the murder weapon.
I
No.
solved the case. Go me.
Exactly.
In a half an hour.
I know. It's open and closed.
All
Man.
right, we're done here. Good work, everyone.
Yeah, dude, it's one of those things. Like when you look at like the medical profession and like when it became like a real profession, like it's scary. It's so scary to think that like 100 years ago they were like, "What are germs?"
There's a whole section. There's a whole
Oh
section
god,
on
dude.
What
Like
are
so,
germs?
yeah, exactly. Like it's just one of those things where you just like, oh my gosh, where like, um, there's some things that you're just like you don't realize how far we've come, and
Mhm.
just
In the short
and back then,
time.
like I said, people did. They were just like, yeah, sounds good enough. Probably right. You know,
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder what that kind of like, if they had, investigators that went back and reviewed these things from the 1800s and how many holes they could find in all the people that they convicted. Like, because I'm sure there was just half
So
of them
many
were
innocent
probably
people.
innocent. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just like, oh my gosh, no.
It was the survey. It was them. It was that one. That one. Take them
Was
away.
that one.
All right.
Exactly.
Case closed.
It was obviously the person with no rank.
Yes. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A gentleman wouldn't do this.
Absolutely.
Never.
If there was any evidence that pointed to a lord at all, they're just like, we're not even gonna look at this.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
Nothing to see.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, can I interest anyone in the benefits of bloodletting? It's great for that.
There's like a whole chapter in that. Yeah.
God, that was their answer for everything. Everything.
You know.
Leeches. She stubbed her toe. Leeches.
Yeah.
I read a really interesting book. It was a nonfiction about sanguivores, and they talked about leeches and bloodletting and stuff, and how it was kind of used medicinally, and it was really interesting. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Dark Banquet. It was called Dark Banquet. Yeah, I don't remember the author. I don't want to say a wrong name, but it was called Dark Banquet. It was about sanguivores, and so it was about like leeches, vampire bats, bed bugs. It was really interesting to
Bed bugs.
Bed bugs.
Yes. Oh, that was absolutely the creepiest section of the book, for sure.
I would skip
I might
it because I
skip
just
that
feel them
section
crawling
because
on me
I
now.
can't.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
All
I
right.
didn't mean
Well,
to make
I
it
need to
that
go
weird.
burn my house down now that Amber
I know, bed bugs.
Bed bugs.
Set it on fire. That's the only, like, honestly, if I did have a bed bug infestation, I would literally move. I'm like, I can't. I cannot.
Yeah.
You
Set
can't
everything
take
on
anything
fire.
with you. It's like the worst. Oh man.
All right. Well, no one has anything else. Thank you to my lovely co-hosts for being here. Ryan, thank you so much for taking a chance on this book.
I apologize again. It's my fault.
You're
No,
a real
no,
one,
like I said.
Ryan.
No, it's all right. He's gonna get us back next month. So who's
This chunky thing.
who's in for
This
70?
chunky thing.
Gosh.
862 pages.
How long?
862 pages.
No, sir.
Oh,
No.
I'm sure there's an
that's not
appendix too that you could add on to that as well.
Oh gosh.
it. Anything
That's
over
not
300
bad.
pages. Anything over 300 pages. I'm like, why? Why?
Anything
Oh,
over
dude, it's
So irritated.
It's amazing. It's amazing sci-fi.
Irritated already. I haven't even read it. Irritated.
The way I describe that book is that it's like, so it's about the near future, and basically the moon blows up. No explanation really why, just that it's blown up. And at first they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then they realize, oh, wait, like it blows up into like 7 pieces. And then they realize the pieces start hitting each other and breaking. And they start doing the math, and they realize that in 2 or 3 years, the moon is just going to break into this cloud of dust, and the dust is going to start hitting the atmosphere, and it's going to make the planet unlivable for 5,000 years.
Oh,
So it's about
I'm sorry.
humanity trying to
Fun.
survive.
I have a question. 800 pages and it's not explained why the moon
No,
exploded?
that's just
No,
how
like
it starts.
it's exactly, that's just it. Why it happens doesn't matter. It's how humanity responds to it happening.
Okay.
because sometimes you don't know.
So Nicole's definitely joining us next month for our 70s chat.
I might just hate read it and go like every 200 pages. I'm like, why isn't this done yet?
Brings out like an
So,
entire
like-
roll of grievances.
Basically, the way the book goes is, I would say, it's been a few years since I've read it, but like first, like 50 to 75% is what happens in those first few years, and then it jumps to the 5,000 years later.
All right.
So it's a lot of action and drama in the beginning, and then just kind of the results at the end.
Is anybody having sex?
He's got
You're
to
not
think
selling
about
us,
it.
Yes,
Ryan.
yes.
You're not selling us very
Not
well.
it means
dude.
it's not good sex.
It wasn't memorable.
No, I don't think that was the point of the book. I don't think there's any tentacles involved.
Damn it. No, 800 pages. No one's getting their guts rearranged. You're not selling this very well. I'm just saying.
Well, on that
planning
note, my
to read
next
it.
author interview is with author Kelly Anthony, and that's Monday, June 27th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm not sure the time in Australia, but that is where she will be joining us from.
Oh, cool.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our talk of the murder of Mr. Wickham. I hope you join us in another live show, another video, and also check out my co-hosts. All the links are in the description box down below. And until then, we'll see you in the next video.